Looking at the topic of scholarships, there are many four-year colleges that offer academic scholarships, and most of them are based on SAT or an ACT score and the student's high school level GPA. So a very general target score for an ACT test is around a 28, and for the SAT test, around a 1320. So again, I'm just giving you a ballpark because a lot of times I know when our kids were testing, they tested, we got the score, and we're like, okay, now what does this mean? So there's a little ballpark for you for your to help your student determine if they should retake it or not. Have them shoot for a 28 or a 1320 for the upper level academic scholarships. Community colleges often have scholarships available as well. Look at the requirements of those scholarships. I know that in Colorado there's two main community colleges that one of them, there's about a dozen, I'd say, scholarships that are available to the students, and the student only needs to fill out one application, and then the college matches them to the scholarship that they qualify for through that one application. The other college, again, there's about a dozen or more scholarships, but the student has to fill out an application for each of those scholarships that they qualify for. So they have to do the footwork in finding out if they qualify for that scholarship or not. So look at your community college's scholarship requirements and make sure that you find out what work you need to do to qualify and to apply for those scholarships. Now, some more specific scholarships, and this is not fully comprehensive, but I'm going to just give you some very common ones that have very high values. One is the Voice of Democracy Scholarship. Veterans of Foreign Wars have a premier scholarship program, and it's open to students in grades 9 through 12. And there's prizes and scholarships awarded at the local, the district, the state, and the national level. So the state winners receive an all-expense-paid trip to Washington, D.C., and the top scholarship value is $30,000. And I'm sure that value will go up over the years. And one thing I just want to say, it's very sad in one hand and good for homeschoolers on the other, but the Veteran Voice of Democracy Scholarship is in many public schools, the veterans are not allowed to come in anymore and talk to the students about this scholarship, and that's because they represent war. And so consequently, the scholarship is being shut out of many public schools, but however, consequently, many homeschoolers are applying for this and winning this scholarship, and it's very valuable, so look into that. There are scholarships for transfer students as well. The main highest value one is the Jack Kent Cook Foundation Scholarship, and that's valued up to $30,000 per year. So it's based on achievement and academic ability, financial need, persistence, leadership. Then there's the Phi Theta Kappa Scholarship. You must have completed 12 hours of college-level coursework that is going to be applied to an associate's degree or may be applied to associate's degree to be eligible. You must generally have an average GPA of 3.5, and transfer students who are a member of the Phi Theta Kappa are eligible for a renewable scholarship at $2,500, $2,000 to $2,500 per year. How the process works is after three of my children have gotten this Phi Theta Kappa scholarship. After your first semester at the community college, then if your GPA is 3.5 or higher, then you are invited to apply to Phi Theta Kappa. And I believe it was around $85 or $90 to join Phi Theta Kappa. At that point, once your student transfers to a four-year college, then their four-year college tuition is decreased every semester by $2,000 if they maintain their college level GPA. And when you transfer to a four-year college, they only need to have a 2.5 GPA or better. At the community college, it's 3.5 or higher to be able to get the Phi Theta, to join Phi Theta Kappa. As well, when you join Phi Theta Kappa, they have many in-house scholarships that your student can apply for. So it's very worth it for that $85, $90 to join Phi Theta Kappa. You get that back multiple times when your student transfers to the four-year college, or if they qualify for another in-house Phi Theta Kappa scholarship. Looking at some potential full-ride scholarships, and again, this is not a comprehensive list, but some top-level ones are, number one, the National Merit Scholarship. As I said earlier, students, the top 2% of top scorers in the PSAT test are invited to apply. Then it is a process to go through to apply for the scholarship itself. There's letters of reference. There's other factors in the application process. If your student is awarded the National Merit Scholarship, the value of that scholarship is about $2,500. However, there are corporate sponsors and four-year colleges who add into that $2,500 that make it a potential of a full-ride scholarship. So it's a very valuable scholarship, all going back to starting with the PSAT test. Locally here in Colorado, we have what's called the Boettcher Foundation Scholarship. And it's the Boettcher Foundation was finding that many of Colorado's top students were being recruited out of state to go to other colleges. So they created 40 four-year scholarships that are full rides for Colorado residents to attend any four-year college within the state of Colorado for the Boettcher Foundation Scholarship. It's full tuition and fees, and there's a living stipend, and it helps defray the cost of room and board, and then there's a book allowance. So it's a complete full-ride scholarship from the Boettcher Foundation. Another full-ride scholarship potential is the Daniels Fund Scholarship. About 250 students from Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming are awarded the scholarship each year. This scholarship has the potential, again, to be a full ride, including room, board, living stipend, books, everything. So that's a very valuable scholarship to look into. Let's talk about how to find online scholarships. The College Board website, where your student registers for the SAT test, they have you create a student profile. And I know as homeschoolers, we only like to give the information that is needed for the test itself, to take the test itself. But on the College Board website, they ask you a whole bunch of questions, very personal and background of race and a variety of questions. But what they're doing is building a profile to match your student with scholarships. So they do keep your information private. They don't sell it. So to the extent that your student fills out the College Board profile, they could be matched to more scholarships through that profile. So it could be a very good thing for you to do. There's more than 2,200 programs and about $6 billion in scholarship money out there. FastWeb is a good online scholarship search. collegescholarships.org is another one. But what you want to do is create a separate email account just for the scholarship application process, because you will be inundated with emails from different colleges throughout the United States to wanting you to apply for their scholarships. So have a separate email so your personal email isn't bombarded. Also, beware of sweepstakes scholarships. Look at the wording of the email from the college. If it says you can win, then don't apply for those, because they're just fishing for personal information, and the likelihood of your student winning that scholarship is pretty low. Also, do not pay for a scholarship search. There's companies out there that say, hey, pay us this fee and we'll find you scholarships. They're just going to do the same thing that you can do, which is a Google search or going to FastWeb or collegescholarships.org. So you shouldn't have to pay money to get money. So don't go for one of those companies unless you don't want to do the search yourself. So those are the best ways to find online scholarships. The next section is the financial aid section. And the first thing we're going to look at is the FAFSA, which is the Free Application for Student Aid. So this is the application used by nearly all colleges and universities that determines the student's eligibility for federal, state, and college-sponsored financial aid. And that financial aid can come in the form of grants, educational loans, work-study programs, etc. So a family will first need to fill out the FAFSA form and create an account with the federal government for that form, and then that can be used at any college that the student applies to. Another possibility for financial aid here in the state of Colorado is called the College Opportunity Fund. Basically, every year our state legislature sets aside a certain amount of money per credit hour to go towards financial assistance for all Colorado students. So in recent years, it's up to about $65 per credit hour. So a family will create a College Opportunity Fund account. You can do that as young as 13, the student being 13, and it will be applied every year. Now, there are lots of stipulations for time frame for the College Opportunity Fund, so you wouldn't necessarily want to do it at the age of 13. You just can. So you'll want to go on their website and look at all the specific conditions. If you live in another state, you'll want to look into your state legislature's policies and see if they have a similar type program where the local government will give financial aid to students at a flat rate like we have here. So check your state and see if they have a similar program. Another helpful financial aid program is the American Opportunity Credit. Now this is good for everybody across the United States. So you may be able to claim up to $2,500 per year tax credit per student. And that can go toward any of the educational expenses for your student. So you'll want to, again, go to the American Opportunity Credit website and look at the stipulations there and talk to your accountant and see about how you can take advantage of that education tax credit. We're going to take a look at national honor societies. Now, there's an honor society called the National Honor Society, which is the most well-known National Honor Society. And however, they do not accept homeschool students. So I did some research to find out what other honor societies are there that homeschoolers can be eligible for, because it looks very good on a student's cover letter or transcript, the fact that their academics have been acknowledged. So one of them is called the Eta Sigma Alpha. Could be Eta. You Latin students should know this. I don't. Eta Sigma Alpha National Homeschool Honor Society. There's the Mu Eta Sigma National Math Honor Society, the Science National Honor Society, the National Society of High School Scholars. So these are all honor societies that accept homeschool applicants. So I would encourage you parents to look into these honor societies, because it can be a motivation for your students. There'll be things that they have to achieve. Sometimes it's just a certain grade point average on their transcript. Other times it's leadership skills. There's a variety of qualifications to be accepted into these honor societies, but it can be a really good motivation factor for your student. And it at least could be an acknowledgement of something that your student has already achieved as well. So look into these national honor societies. I'm going to do a comparison of four-year versus community college. The reason is there seems to be a lot of apprehension about a student going through community college first, like they settled or something, or they couldn't get accepted into a four-year college. And there may be cases like that, but there are a lot of very practical advantages for going through a community college first before going on to a four-year college. So some of the things we're going to look at are the admission and testing requirements for a community college versus a four-year college, college articulation agreements, cost comparisons of the two. So we're going to look at those three areas and help you to decide which is best for your student. Looking at the admission and test requirements for a community college, 100% of students are accepted. The SAT or ACT tests are not required for admission. So here would be a case if you have a bright student who's just not a good test taker and they didn't do well on the ACT or SAT, or they didn't take the ACT or SAT test, the community college is a great avenue for them to get into a four-year college because those tests are not required for admission. Most community colleges have a free AccuPlacer test, where it's an academic test that places your student at the level of math and language arts at the college level that they need to be based on where they're coming in post-high school. So one thing to be aware of on these AccuPlacer tests, at least at our local community college here, the highest math level that the AccuPlacer will place a student is at the trigonometry level. Now, my two youngest had already taken calculus in high school, and so I didn't want them to go backwards and take trigonometry first before taking college level calculus. So I met with a counselor, and it was just a matter of having the counselor do an override to get them into the Calculus 1 class. And she basically just looked at their ACT and SAT math score to see that, okay, they achieved this score, they can enter in at Calculus 1. So if your student does take the AccuPlacer test and you feel like it wasn't accurate for your student's abilities, please don't hesitate to make an appointment with a counselor and get further clarification on that. Looking at a four-year college, acceptance is typically based on the ACT, SAT test scores and the student's high school GPA. Some colleges take into account other factors like leadership skills. They look at the whole person. They look at volunteer work. So they look at the whole person, and that's why you'll need to have all of those things. That's why I recommend that all of those activities and awards and jobs and things go on either the transcript or a cover letter, because some colleges do look at that. Now, this is something really important. Once a student has achieved 30 credit hours, 30 college credit hours, then a four-year college does not require ACT or SAT scores for admission. So once again, if your student is not a good tester, if they've been doing some dual enrollment courses through Preparation Academy or other types of dual enrollment courses where they've been accruing college credit hours, once they get to 30 credit hours, the four-year colleges don't look at those ACT or SAT scores anymore. So those are two avenues for a student to get into a four-year college without an ACT or an SAT score, either through the community college accruing 30 credit hours or 30 alternative college credit hours. Now, this next section is really important. I'm going to cover two types of agreements that community colleges have with four-year colleges. And again, there may be more agreements than what I'm speaking of in your state, but these are the two most common agreements. And one is called a guaranteed transfer agreement, and the other is called an articulation agreement. And I'm going to spend a little time here because it gets a little complicated. So we'll start with the general transfer agreement. A general transfer agreement between a community college and a four-year college says that all the credits that a student takes at the community college level are guaranteed to transfer to a four-year college. Now that sounds great, except that when you look at it more closely, the credits are guaranteed to transfer, but that does not guarantee that the class that the student is going to take is guaranteed to transfer. For example, if a student takes a 4-credit Calculus 1 class at the community college and they transfer into a four-year college that has a guaranteed transfer agreement, that guaranteed transfer agreement says those 4 credits that they took will transfer to the four-year college. But it does not guarantee that that Calculus 1 class will transfer to the four-year college as Calculus 1. So what a student may end up with is this pool of credits that get applied toward their free electives and potentially other elective classes. But oftentimes what I've found with families is that they just end up with a pile of extra credits that don't get used toward the bachelor's degree. So you need to be careful with a guaranteed transfer agreement because it's only saying credit for credit is transferred, not class for class. So the way to be sure that that is going to both transfer over is there's two ways to do that. One is to develop the college plan for your student at the community college level and at the four-year college level. Make an appointment with the college that your student wants to transfer and go over with the counselor saying, these are the courses my student wants to take here at the community college level. Will all of these courses transfer to your university, course for course, credit for credit? And make sure you get it in writing because that counselor may be telling you something that either one may not be 100% accurate, or two, even if it is accurate, if the policy of the school changes down the road, you just want to have it in writing. So get that in writing if you can. The other way around it is many community colleges and four-year colleges have what's called a block transfer agreement. That agreement says if your student achieves an associate's degree at the community college level and transfers over to the four-year college, then those courses and credits will transfer as a block, course for course, credit for credit, to that four-year college. So it's not always clear if those two colleges have a block transfer agreement. So even if they have a guaranteed transfer, ask the college that your student wants to go to if they have a block transfer agreement, because then if your student, you'll want to complete their associate's degree before going over to the four-year college. So that's the guaranteed transfer agreement. An articulation agreement is a stronger agreement. An articulation agreement says that the class for class, credit for credit classes will transfer over to the four-year college. So that's the best, strongest agreement that the two colleges can have. And in a case like that, the student doesn't necessarily need to get their associate's degree before going to the four-year college because the courses have already been approved, course for course, credit for credit. We had that happen with our two youngest going to the engineering school. It has an agreement with the community college, so they followed the coursework that was laid out for them at the community college. They had to take these certain classes, but they were all guaranteed to transfer over. They didn't get their associate's degree, but they didn't need the associate's degree because the classes that they would have taken at the community college level to get the associate's degree were not required for their bachelor's degree. So there would have been a case where they would have taken unnecessary courses at the community college level because they would not have applied to the bachelor's degree. These are the kind of scenarios that I discuss with families in my 1-hour consultation with them in developing a college plan for your student when you go through Preparation Academy. I go through these scenarios to make sure as best that we can to set your student up so that no credits are wasted. Looking at the overall cost of what a student could potentially save by going 2 years at community college and then 2 years at a four-year college versus 4 years at a four-year college. My chart here just looks at two colleges here in Colorado. A private Christian school, Colorado Christian, and Colorado School of Mines, a public engineering school. So by going 2 years at a community college and transferring to Colorado Christian, a student can save around $7,000. Now I'm going to put a little caveat in there. One is room and board is not included in either of these figures. And when you have room and board at a university, it just about doubles what the cost of the tuition is. So I laid that aside and didn't look at room and board. But the other thing is this does not take into account local scholarships, potential scholarships that are available at a university. So these are just some pretty raw numbers, but it gives you a good overall idea. At the School of Mines, because of the articulation agreement that Red Rocks and Mines has, there was a huge potential for savings. And you can see on the chart, over $12,000 we saved with each of our children by going through Red Rocks first. Another factor here that is really important is that with the articulation agreement, the course for course transfers, credit for credit transfers. But what we discovered is there's even another bonus on top of that, which is at the community college level, when my children took Calculus 1, for example, it was a 5-credit class. When it transferred over to Colorado School of Mines, it transferred over as Calc 1, but at Calc 1 at Colorado School of Mines is a 3-credit class. So because of the articulation agreement, not only did my children get the Calculus 1 for Calculus 1, but those 2 extra credits went into their free electives and satisfied their free electives at Colorado School of Mines, saving additional tuition. So when we laid out our children's degree plan, we only had to plan out their 2 years of core classes at Colorado School of Mines and their degree-specific electives. Typically, for a bachelor's degree, you'll have degree-specific electives as well as a pool of what's called free electives. And so those free electives were all satisfied at a community college rate, cost savings. So that's another way when I lay out degree plans for you. Preparation Academy courses can satisfy free elective courses at at many of these universities. And so that's another savings for the students because they can be applied toward the free elective pool of credit requirements. Now, lastly, this is an intangible area that I like to talk to parents about. I call it the buddy strategy. What we did with our children, because they attended school locally, college locally, we were able to coordinate with other families. And so we called it the buddy strategy. And what we did is we tried to coordinate these kids to take as many classes together as possible. And because it was the community college level, we were able to have them carpool and a lot of these general ed courses they took together. And what happened was we found that we were able to get 5 or 6 buddies taking some of these courses together. And these kids would get together and pray for their professors, and they would pray for the students in their communities. And it also provided them with companionship in between classes. Again, this is an adult atmosphere on campus. So when your students have to attend on campus, then it's good for them to have a buddy. It's a good distraction. And what they have found is that in many cases, in praying for their professors, they have found they've had a significant impact in their classrooms. There was one particular situation in a Spanish class where we had about 5 buddies taking this class together. And they found that this professor, he was an excellent teacher, but he used, let's just say, inappropriate language, peppered throughout his lectures. So these buddies got together and they decided, we're just going to pray for him and pray that he will hold his tongue. And, ultimately they prayed for his salvation, of course, but they intentionally prayed in this one specific area. And it was very interesting because after a couple of weeks of praying for him, they found that this professor was catching himself in his lectures. He would go to teach something and say something where normally he would use a foul word. They found he was stopping himself. And after about a month, they found that he was not using the foul language anymore. And he has since sought out these homeschool students, and not just in that class, but in subsequent classes. And the last word that we received was that he is a father of 3, and he has determined that they will homeschool their children. And our next intentional prayer for him, of course, is salvation. But I just tell you this to let you know that your kids can have an impact on the culture around them at the college atmosphere. We've had other testimonies, stories. My daughter came across some inappropriate content at the private university, the Christian university she went to. We brought up the content to the president of the college, and he looked into it and found that he wanted to create a textbook review committee, which had not been in place before. So now this university has a textbook review committee. 10 textbooks have been removed from the curriculum at this university. Other stories of students going to their professors. My youngest daughter talked to her geology professor after the first day, and she told him what her worldview was. She said, "I'm a Christian, and I just want you to know that I don't believe the worldview that you're speaking of here, but I will provide the answers that you want in the tests. I will do my work. I will work hard. I just want you to know that I don't believe in what I'm telling you and turning in my papers." And he was very respectful to her. And by the end of the semester, he told her, "If you need any letters of references, any referrals, if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know." And she has called on him for writing letters of reference for scholarship applications. So these are all intangible things that come together for your students when they have a strong walk with the Lord. And this is why I've given this seminar, because my heart's desire is for you now to feel equipped, that you know the practical things that you need to do to prepare your children for college. I hope you don't feel intimidated anymore by this. And I really hope that you take advantage of the services that Preparation Academy offers. And I hope to speak with you in a one-on-one consultation to help create a plan for your student and help you to help your children prepare for college. So I want to end with this scripture of Proverbs 16:9, which says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." Pray for wisdom throughout your planning process and preparing your children for college. Be intentional in your planning. These things that I talked about in the seminar, some of these things we didn't know when we first went through this with our oldest one. Between our oldest and our youngest, we learned all of these things that I'm presenting to you. But you have to be intentional in order to have the best results for your children. And just remember that your teenager's relationship with Christ is more important than the academics. So whatever decision you make for your student, whether it's to homeschool through high school or put them in public, private school, wherever the Lord directs, just make sure that that is the priority and make your relationship with them your priority.